my goodness, it is amazing to have you on this show. We only met briefly, and we haven't met in person. So it's a recent meet, haven't even met in person, and we're doing some things together.
We are doing so much together, Clint. I am thrilled to be here now on this podcast and also seeing you in person shortly here at Silicon Slopes. Delighted. Clint, I think you're already now a flow bro. We call our fellows that support menstruation our flow bros. So really? I think you're officially one of them.
Is that a good thing? Like a flow bro. I'm trying to think, like, if somebody called me a flow bro in regular life, how would I feel? I think I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I've been called a lot worse, Claire, and that actually sounds like a very good thing to be called. Well, it's an honor. It's an honor to be getting to know you currently. As you mentioned, like, you are speaking at Silicon Slopes Summit, which is an event we do here in the state of Utah every year, and it's become quite a big nationally recognized tech event, which is really cool. We hopped on a call, and I can't even remember how it happened or who. Actually, it was Anna Mason from Revolution Ventures, who is another just incredible leader and somebody who really understands community and how to build it. I believe she introduced us, and we hopped on a call, and somehow you managed to get on the main stage at Silicon Slope Summit. You didn't manage. I managed for you. I wanted that to happen for sure. And you're going to be on stage doing a fireside chat with our very own, or Utah's very own, I should say, Kristen Andrus, who has done some incredible things. And we're going to talk about all that. But to start, my goodness, what an incredible career you've already had. And you are, I'm much older than you, by the way. And you have accomplished so much more than I ever have in my life. And so you started Ant Flow when you were 18. Is that right? You founded it in 2016?
Yes. So I founded what is now known as Ant Flow when I was 18 years old.
Did I say it wrong? In Utah, we call it Ant.
Oh, we don't discriminate. Aunt, we'll take it anyway. But yes, I started this company after getting my period in public, and I didn't have a tampon or pad when I needed one. In the bathroom, there was an archaic coin-operated tampon and pad dispenser. Naturally, I wasn't carrying a quarter because, I don't know, Clint, do you have a quarter on you right now?
Can you imagine if I just pull it out?
Well, you don't. And that's why you also don't have access to period products right now if you needed one either. And so I thought, if toilet paper is offered for free in bathrooms, why aren't period products? And that simple question led me on a 6-year quest to build this enterprise now known as Ant Flow, stocking business and school bathrooms with our organic cotton period products and patented free bend tampon and pad dispensing systems.
So it's incredible. Like you see this problem, you face this problem yourself. You say, like, this needs to be fixed. This is ridiculous. Which is how a lot of companies and startups get started. But how did you know that this was a company? That's what I'm fascinated by. I mean, you've raised over $1 million in venture capital. How did you realize, like, this is actually a company?
Yeah. So when I first started working on this, it wasn't a company. It was a project that was working out of my apartment and a U-Haul storage unit. So I actually founded this company after dropping out of college. So I was studying at The Ohio State University. I was there for a semester. And after I had this moment of getting my period in public, I ended up leaving university to work on what at the time was a project. And I just started testing out the market, going door to door, asking businesses if they were interested in joining the menstrual movement and buying some tampons and pads from me to put in their bathrooms. And that was the first test. That was my quote unquote MVP, my minimum viable product. And that's where it started. And as I continued to go door to door, what I learned is that businesses were interested in offering free period products in their bathrooms. They just had never thought about it before. It never occurred to them that it was something that was important. And then even if it did occur to them, they didn't have a solution for it. And so that was really where the beginning was. For the first 2 years of the business or project at the time, I waitressed. All the money that I made from waitressing, I just put back into the business. I had a quasi-illegal Airbnb enterprise that I was operating out of my apartment in Columbus, Ohio.
That's cool.
And then eventually learned about venture capital and was able to raise $11 million to build what is now known as AmpFlow.
So you said that like so nonchalantly, able to raise over $11 million. Like people don't just do that, Claire. Like that is a significant accomplishment. It's pretty incredible to raise that amount. What was like, walk me through like the point where you're like the first 2 years, you're like, I'm waitressing. This is a project. This is something I care passionately about. How in the world do companies not already have this figured out? Schools not already have this figured out? Maybe I can solve this problem. How do you go from those first 2 years to like, all right, let's raise some money and let me go meet with some VCs. Like, how does that happen? I'm just telling you, like that doesn't just happen.
Yeah. Long nights crying on the floor and a lot of ramen, Clint. Those are the 3 keys to success. No, but from age 18 to 20, I had just left university. My parents stopped talking to me. They weren't really keen on me dropping out of college to talk about menstruation for a living. And my university asked me if I wanted to take a leave of absence, just in case this period thing didn't work out. And I said no. And for me, if I had a plan B, it would have been easier to fall back on it when things got really hard, and things got really, really hard. And so those first 2 years, there were so many times when I wanted to throw in the towel. There were so many nights when, I didn't, like somebody stiffed me waitressing, and that was all the money that I was making. And I was still trying to like build this, once again, project, not a business. And it would put me on the ground floor crying, trying to figure it out. But I didn't have an alternative. I didn't have a plan B. This had to work. And also, the next generation of people with periods had to have access. Like this had to change. And thankfully, at age 18, I was naive enough to think that I would be able to change it. The benefits of starting when I was young, I didn't know how hard it was going to be. So that was really the first 2 years. And I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. So venture capital and quote unquote entrepreneurship were not career paths. They weren't something that I was familiar with. Eventually, with enough Googling and enough online research, I learned about venture capital and eventually learned about a startup accelerator program called Techstars, which I applied 6 times to, finally got in New York City. And that's really what started me on this path of building now a company, not just a project.
Okay. Very, very cool. That makes sense. So, by the way, your parents stopped talking to you? That's intense.
Yeah, a whole bunch going on there. Yeah, Clint, you really keyed in on that one.
Oh, immediately.
Yeah.
Well, I've been there. That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So that's intense. And also, did I read that you're a Teal Fellow?
Yeah, I eventually was awarded the Teal Fellowship, which is a $100,000 grant to pursue a business over formal education. I do want to make it clear that I was awarded the Teal Fellowship after I dropped out of college, 2 years after I dropped out of college. So, but yes, I was delighted and honored to be a recipient of the Peter Thiel Fellowship.
What an incredible program! Like, and Peter Thiel, like you say that name, and automatically, I think a lot of people like either have strong opinions or maybe either way. But what an incredible putting your money where your mouth is and making a difference, and saying like, hey, there's other alternatives and other paths rather than going to university, and giving young folks $100K to just build something. I mean, look at, by the way. The guy who just sold his company to Adobe for $20 billion, the founder of Figma, also
Dylan.
a Teal Fellow.
Yay, Dylan!
Also a Teal Fellow. So it's pretty incredible the impact Peter's having there. So you go to Techstars, you go to the New York one, you apply 6 times, 6th time you get in. What did you learn at Techstars? I think a lot of people who are listening to this may be interested because that was a path that was like 5-10 years ago. I mean, I'm trying to think like the time for it. Like it really was a big deal to get in like a Techstars or a Y Combinator or stuff like that. For some reason I don't hear about that as much anymore. Although I'm sure they're still doing good. It's probably just because I'm getting old, honestly, Claire, and I just don't focus on it. But what was the experience at Techstars like?
Yeah, well, Techstars for me was an opportunity to learn about this world of venture capital. Before Techstars New York City, I had been to New York when I was a kid, and that was it. I didn't really understand this world of high growth, fast paced startup. When I learned about it, I was fascinated. So Techstars really showed me this entirely different world where projects could become businesses with the right business fundamentals, with the right organization, and with the right idea. And frankly, Clint, I saw all these other folks raising money for widgets on their phones, and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it too, because that's a pretty worthy cause. And so that program really introduced me to angel investors, venture capitalists, and I went through that in the summer of 2018. Coming out of the program, I took 86 investor meetings to close our first seed round of financing of $1.5 million. And that was led by Harlem Capital. It was their first investment of their first fund. And that really started us on this high growth path to stock our period products in now over 30,000 bathrooms across the US, Canada, and most recently we expanded to the United Kingdom.
And I'm going to call it Aunt Flo from now on because I'm not going to be just a hick from Utah. I'm not going to say Aunt anymore, so I'm going to say Aunt Flo. So Aunt Flo, it puts these products in schools, in like arenas and things like that. Like tell everyone like how you're securing these contracts and where you're putting these products.
So at Aunt Flo, we believe that no one should ever have to worry about getting their period in public. So we created a patented free vend tampon and pad dispensing system. It takes the place of those coin-operated metal machines and replaces it with our sleek, beautiful, easy-to-use dispenser. It's free vend. You press the button, you get a tampon, like it should be, just like toilet paper. And then we have designed our organic cotton tampons and pads to fit our dispenser. So it's a kind of razor blade model. Once a dispenser is installed, then the business continues to reorder our tampons and pads.
And it's the business who's buying this, right? It's the business that's signing these contracts. It's like, why would we ever do like a coin? Like, that's insane. Like, the more I think about it, like, why wasn't the venue or these public institutions just putting that in there in the first place? It's fascinating.
Right. If you think about it, if you are a person who pees standing up, you have everything you need in the bathroom. If you're a person that pees sitting down, you probably don't. You don't have access to a tampon. You don't have access to a pad, both which respond to natural bodily functions. And so when we thought about Aunt Flo, it was like, when I was 18 years old, I was like, my God, no one else has solved for this? Really?
Seriously.
And if no one else before me had solved for it, frankly, somebody had to do it. It was about time to make sure that people had access to their basic necessities.
So how do you secure these contracts? Like, what is that process like? Yeah,
so at Aunt Flo, I'm
glad that you screwed up, actually. That makes me feel so much better that
it's one
I'm
and the
first
same,
one.
Clint. It's once again, we don't discriminate on the way that people say our name as long as they are saying it proudly. So at Aunt Flo, we provide the most value for 3 key organizations. We provide a ton of value for K through 12 in schools. And the way that we provide value is because by offering free period products in bathrooms, it increases attendance amongst girls. And this was proven through a case study in New York City public schools that when offering free period products in bathrooms, not in the nurse's office, in the bathroom, it increased attendance amongst girls by 2.4%. We also know through the State of the Period research study in 2021 that 4 out of 5 students have either left class or know someone who has left class because they didn't have access to a tampon or a pad when they needed one. And so we provide value there because it's increasing access to a basic necessity. It's ensuring that people have access to that product. So when we work with schools, we're typically working with superintendents or the Board of Education to implement period products. And we've actually worked to pass legislation in 20 states requiring schools to offer free period products in the bathrooms. And Clint, one of the most recent ones is the state of Utah. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about that in a second. I want you to focus. So you've done like you provide value to the K through 12, and then what are the other two?
Yeah, we provide a ton of value for sports and entertainment. So when you're going
like
to
the Jazz Arena or something like that.
Yeah, so we're in 23 professional sports team stadiums, ranging from the Columbus Crew and Arizona Cardinals all the way to the Atlanta Hawks and Phoenix Suns. And for venues, they want to implement AntFlow because their venues might be going cashless. They either have no bag or clear bag policies. So what do you do when you're menstruating and you can't bring in a bag of period products? And also they're really focused on guest and fan experience. And so AntFlow really provides a solution for all of those 3 key initiatives to implement free period products with AntFlow in their bathrooms. And then the last is what we call enterprise. An enterprise is our bucket of employers and real estate owners and operators. So at AntFlow, we are proud to stock every Apple retail store across the U.S. and Canada. So if you're getting your computer fixed and you're there for far too long and you realize you're on your period, you just go to an Apple store bathroom and the AntFlow products are in the bathroom. We also stock Google and Netflix and Twitter offices. We also stock every asset for RXR, which is a Class A office owner in Manhattan. So those are the 3 key areas that we provide value to. And we are so excited to be able to support all of those clients.
Okay, so where are you with Starbucks? Like there needs to be, that seems like a client you need immediately, and we need to go to work to make sure that happens. Because Starbucks, as you know, it's like half coffee shop, half like rest stop at this point, right? And so we need AntFlow, and I'm going to say it right from now on. AntFlow products in Starbucks. That's one. And then just like restaurants. I feel like a 4th bucket for you would be like restaurants, probably starting with chain restaurants, and then moving down to even other ones. But Starbucks feels like, man, if you could get them, that'd be incredible.
Starbucks, give us a ring. This is now a promo to get Starbucks to call on
All right.
Flow. We would love to work together.
You need to. By the way, I envision you closing that contract within a month now. I really do. Like that needs to be, you need to be in Starbucks, and we are going to go to work to make that happen. All right. So you mentioned legislation and the fact that the state of Utah recently passed some legislation around this. I know it's interesting. You called the first 2 years of AntFlow a project. Kristen Andrus, who is this incredible person and leader in the state of Utah, just one of the greatest people, one of the greatest Utahns. She started something called the Period Project, right? Within the
and just to be clear, it is so much more than a project. It is a movement. It is an initiative. It is a policy organization that is truly changing the landscape across Utah and across the U.S. So you're right. I did say project.
It's unbelievable what she's done in such a short amount of time with the Period Project, which is why I wanted her to interview you on stage at Silicon Slopes Summit. I think that conversation is going to be really interesting. But tell us about passing legislation. That sounds like the job of like lobbyists. Is that an interesting thing as like a business to go in there and be like, hey, listen, this is important, and what's the response been so far? Because you have how many did you say you had? 21, 22?
20 states have
Yeah.
some legislation to require schools to offer free period products in the
So
bathrooms.
30 more to go, right? What is this process like?
Yeah. So at OnSFLO, we don't hire lobbyists. We rely on grassroots organizations like the Policy Project and the Period Project in Utah, and also student advocates advocating for themselves, saying, this is important to me. This is important to make sure that I have access. My younger sister has access to these basic necessities. So in Utah specifically, the Policy Project and the Utah Period Project started working on policy to ensure that girls across the state had access. And they were successful in passing House Bill 162, which requires K through 12 schools in the state of Utah to offer free period products in girls' bathrooms. That includes public, private, and charter schools. And they put in incredible effort to make sure that this was accessible, not only through passing the legislation, but then also making sure that the products were implemented. And the organization really made sure that that happened through a public-private partnership in the state of Utah. And in Utah, the Andrus Family Foundation, as you'd mentioned a few times, Kristen, the Andrus Family Foundation, in addition to the Larry H. and Gail Miller Foundation, came together to invest in OnSFLO dispensers. So they made the investment in all of the dispensers. And then the Utah Board of Education said, yes, this is important. And we'll be purchasing our OnSFLO organic cotton period products to implement in the schools for the next 4 years. So it's truly the work of the student advocates in the state, the on-the-ground organizations like Utah the Period Project and the Policy Project, and of course, that public-private partnership. All those forces coming together to change the world one cycle at a time.
That was great. What have you learned dealing with politicians and legislature and like governors and these types of folks? Like, just to set it up, like I think most people hate politicians, right? I don't. So we're not politicians. Although it does seem like after Aunt Flo, you're going to be president of the United States. I see something politically here for you. But what's it been like so far to work with politicians and try to get this through?
Well, what is really special about the menstrual movement is that we have had consistent bipartisan support. At the end of the day, the facts are clear. By implementing freely accessible period products in schools, it increases attendance amongst girls. And young folks are advocating for this. This is important to the students. And it's not just girls that are advocating. Clint, as I mentioned, you're a flow bro. We have boy students who are saying this is important to me because I know somebody that menstruates, right? My sister, my mom, my babysitter. Everybody loves somebody who menstruates. And so we have been really successful from a collaboration support, from an all sides coming together perspective. Now, of course, there are people that say, you should just carry your own period products, or can't you just hold it? Like, can't you just hold in your period, or, this isn't
That's
the
so
responsibility of the school, right? But a lot of it is just lack of education, because it's a topic that we have not talked about ever. And part of the goal for OnSFLO, and frankly, the incredible work that the Utah Policy Project has put forth, is talking about menstruation and making it an accessible conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's like a Republican or a Democratic issue. You're right about that. It does seem like it's pretty, like Utah's a very red state, and this thing seemed to just fly right through the legislature.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what party you are, you still need period products.
So what are you like? Do you take Aunt Flo public? Like, what is the end game here? Like, are like you've raised this 11 million? You're obviously having an insane amount of success. I'm going to get a sweet commission on this Starbucks deal, so that's going to be good. Like, you're about to get like huge contracts and be everywhere. Where does it go from here? Like what's the end game? Are you going to take this? Are you like on the road to IPO in the next like 5-10 years? I mean, what do you think about this stuff?
Well, I have a pretty clear mission, and it's to make sure nobody ever has to worry about getting their period in public, and that AntFlow is the solution for period care and access to period care. So there are 10 million female commercial bathrooms in just the United States. So the market opportunity is massive. And we don't have even 1% of the penetration right now. And so we have a lot of work to do to make sure that people truly have access to high quality, sustainable period products from AntFlow. So that's what we're going after. And of course, we are venture backed. And so that does mean that we are high growth, that we're actively growing our team as well as our customer account, and all the while really making the world better for people with periods.
So, walk me through a day. Like, I'm fascinated by like a day in your life. You what are these conversations and deals like? Like I really would I really would like to be a fly on the wall, particularly as you're talking to like these kind of old school legislators. I don't know how you say it. About like, hey, you guys need to pass this. Let's push this through. Walk me through what's that. Like, how do you convince them? Like beyond like, hey, no matter what, somebody who does this, that type of thing. Like, they do have a finite amount of money, right? These state budgets and things like that. And even like companies and things like that. Like, the idea is like, duh. And like, as soon as it clicks that they go, or like, are these conversations, a little bit harder sometimes?
Well, Clint, it's definitely changed over the 6 years that we have been working on AntFlow, right? I founded the company based in Ohio. And back in 2016, 2015, there wasn't any legislation around accessible period products. And so the conversation has definitely changed over these 6 years, which is fabulous, and it's changed in the right direction. For the first 4 years, we were educating on the importance of access to period products, right? At first it was, well, I already have something. And that something was a coin-operated dispenser, right? Like that's not really a solution. That is not a solution. Or, I already have something, and it's maybe a basket of tampons and pads, which is a good stopgap. But when you are a high-traffic bathroom, that basket ends up walking away and for some reason never gets replaced. And so really educating that access is important, making a program that is sustainable for both the janitor to restock, the company to maintain from a budget perspective, and products that fit environmental goals. All of that needed to happen. And now it's really helping folks get awareness on the solution, because most of the times when we're talking with facilities managers, and our target customer is a facilities manager, and you can imagine your favorite facilities manager, they're likely not menstruating. So those conversations are now more delightful. Most of them are, I'd never thought about this, Claire, but I have 2 daughters, and I want them to live in a world where they don't have to worry about getting their period. Or, Claire, I have 2 daughters, and what should I know? How should I be making, what can I do as a dad to make sure that their lives are better in the future? So the conversations have definitely changed and evolved, but we do still have common questions like, well, if it's free, aren't people just going to steal everything?
Right. That's the fun. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of like the old Jerry Seinfeld joke of like going to the airport, and you go into the airport bathroom and you push on the water dispenser to wash your hands, right? The sink. And airports have like these things where you only get like 3 seconds of water, and then the thing pops up, and like you have to push it back on again to like finish washing your hands. And it's like, what do people think? Like, what do airports think? Like, we're just going to turn it on like just leave it on, like we'd all be like super excited to like overflow the bathroom with water. We'd be like playing in it, missing our flight. Like that's a whole like Jerry Seinfeld joke. It really is like, it's kind of crazy. Like people like stealing and like, I mean, I'm sure you got to account for a little bit of that, but also like if they're taking period products, that means they probably don't have access to them at home. That feels like actually a good thing.
Yeah, and we stock schools where 100% of the kiddos are on free and reduced lunch.
Let them take them.
In the U.S., tampons and pads aren't covered by WIC. They aren't covered by food stamps or SNAP. So they're a very expensive product for folks living in need. And that's what folks call period poverty. And the Period Project in Utah has done incredible work to continue to host donation drives and initiatives to make sure that folks have access, on the weekends and also in the summer when you aren't at school and have access to period products. And so, yes, there are some folks that do take a few extra for after school hours or on the weekend. But those are definitely the kiddos that are most in need. And with access to those period products on the weekend, they'll be more likely to show up to school on Monday, which is really, really powerful. And to be clear, as a business, we did make sure that we designed our dispenser intentionally so that there wasn't overuse. Our Model R, you press a button and it takes about 3 seconds to take the pad out and then be able to get the next one, right? And so there's ways that we are able to support a business to ensure that there's reduction of overuse. But also, as you mentioned, Clint, if just like the water, right? If somebody needs some water, or somebody needs period products, all basic necessities, might be beneficial to offer it.
Yeah, I just can't imagine it being like a huge issue. Like, has anybody ever said like, oh man, we better lock down the toilet paper or people are going to start taking, at some point that feels more like an excuse than anything else. You're a really great politician. This is why I think you're going to run for office. Cause I've tried a number of times to get you to bash a politician or tell me a bad story about a legislator or legislative group, and you haven't. It's actually really, really impressive. And I'm not going to ask a third time because I actually don't want. I think you got to get elected here someday. How many employees do you have?
Well, on that, Clint, we focus on spreading period positivity. So, of course, there's been challenging conversations, but at the end of the day, when everybody works together to change a movement, we're able to do that rather than creating internal opposition forces. So focused on the period positivity. And with that, we have 35 full-time employees. And
where are you based now? Are you still based in Ohio? Are you based in New York?
Still based in Columbus, Ohio.
That's so
that
cool.
is our headquarters. And we do hire remotely. So about half of our company is in Ohio, and then the other half is everywhere else.
What do you think about like I have this thing where I think it's really important for great entrepreneurs to build where they're from. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just like my own like working theory on like if you can build your company where you're from and build up your own community, man, on top of building an incredible company, an incredible movement, all this type of stuff, you're really doing something for your hometown, your home state. Do you feel that at all? Like how are you like proud that it's in Ohio rather than somewhere else?
It was really hard to get the support that we needed in the early days being in Columbus, Ohio. 6 years ago, there was really one venture firm in the city. That was Drive Capital, who is an offshoot of Sequoia Capital. They're plopped in Columbus, Ohio, and with the initiative to find opportunities. But the challenge with only having one is if you don't get that one, there's nobody else. And then it's a scary indicator for West Coast and East Coast investors if you're based in Columbus and you don't get their money. And we didn't raise money from Drive Capital. And so I would say that was challenging. That's definitely changed over the past few years. There's been some substantial exits in Columbus where founders are able to reinvest in their communities and the next generation of startups that are being built here. there's definitely challenges. That said, it built a lot of strength. And now I know, being in Columbus, Ohio, and from Toledo, Ohio, which is Taco Bell's test city, USA, if we can do it there, we can really do it anywhere. And that made us more resilient through all of the downturns, whether it be COVID or a recession or anything, to be able to manage through, because we had to have business fundamentals from day one.
Wait, Toledo is Taco Bell's what did you say?
Test city.
So the first Taco Bell was in Toledo, or they test all the new products in Toledo?
In Toledo, Ohio, we get all of the new things. You remember those like cinnamon?
Why is that? Are there like a bunch
things?
of stoners in Toledo? Like, how does that, like, why Toledo, Ohio?
I guess, I'm no Taco Bell brand rep, but like
tangent. Here we go.
Tangent.
So
there we go. But Wendy's restaurant is also based in Columbus, Ohio. So we have a really good cross section of fine dining here in the state of Ohio.
Hey, I have an idea for you, for your business. How about approach Taco Bell about putting Aunt Flo in all of their restaurants, and go to Wendy's?
Bell, please join the Menstrual Movement.
Absolutely.
That was
Claire,
the public service announcement.
Claire, I think what you're doing is incredible. You are obviously an amazing leader, amazing founder, building a company that matters in the world. I'm so excited that we get to hear from you on stage at Silicon Slopes Summit. It's really going to be powerful, and I appreciate everything you've done in the state of Utah and everything you're doing throughout the country and throughout the world here. Thank you for coming on the show. We got to have you back on, because, I would have you on to talk for 30 minutes just about Toledo and the fact that they have a high per capita of stoners. Everybody goes to Taco Bell all the time. I'm just kidding. Toledo is the what's the show? What's the movie?
MASH.
Was MASH based out of Toledo?
Oh, well, in MASH they say Holy Toledo, and there's references to Tony Paco's, which is also based in Toledo. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Toledo's cool. You live in Columbus now, though?
Yeah, live in Columbus, and once again, we're not based in Toledo, although that's where I'm from. We're headquartered in Columbus, and a lot of great opportunities now in Columbus as well.
Okay. Any last words or parting thoughts for those who are listening or watching, as far as like the grit and determination it takes to build a company?
Golly, that's a whole nother 30 minutes, Clint. But my goodness, one of the most important things that I learned from my dad was that perseverance paid, and perseverance pays. As I mentioned, I applied to Techstars 6 times. When we raised our seed round of financing, it took 86 meetings. When I left university, I didn't take a leave of absence. I fully dropped out. And I think that those are really important moments to continue to remember. Perseverance pays. And it's showing. We now have a enterprise that employs 35 full-time employees. We have an organization that stocks 30,000 bathrooms with Aunt Flo period products. We have donated 1.6 million tampons and pads in 2021. Perseverance pays. And so if there's one parting thought, it's that perseverance pays.
I like that. Perseverance pays. Let's make a t-shirt. And all funds go to the Period Project here in Utah. I love that. Claire, we will see you on stage at Silicon Slopes Summit, and continue to watch the incredible things you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Woohoo.